Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Reacting to Seahawks Hot Takes, Episode 7, the #1 rated show in America. I'm your host, Loki, and today we're going back to our roots. It's been quite a while since the last episode, and some of the comments on the last episode of the Hot Takes are outdated since so much has happened since then. So we're going to be taking a look at some hot takes from Seahawks.home on Instagram, who recently updated his hot takes, and we got some pretty good ones for you today. Before we get into that, though, I just wanted to thank everyone who wished my mother a happy birthday on my last video. There's almost 100 comments, maybe even over 100 comments just saying happy birthday to her. So shout out to all of you guys. She was very excited, and she really enjoyed seeing all the comments. So just thank you to everyone who wished her a happy birthday. It's super cool of everyone. And, with that, let's just get right into the video. And for the first hot take of the day from Seahawks.home on Instagram, we have Jamal Adams leads the Seahawks in sacks. Now, ideally, this wouldn't have to happen. Jamal Adams, if you look at it from last season, Jamal Adams had 6.5 sacks, and Rasheem Green, who was the leading sacker of the Seattle Seahawks, had 4. So last season, Jamal Adams had more than our highest sack producer, but ideally it wouldn't happen since we have players like Benson Mayowa, Bruce Irvin, possibly Everson Griffin, Rasheem Green from last year, who was our leading sacker, that can probably progress and do a little bit better if he's given the opportunities. We have Jaron Reed, who had a pretty off season last year, but he had 10.5 sacks the year before. And then we have Darrell Taylor and Alden Robinson, two good, pass rushers from the draft. So ideally, he wouldn't have to be the leading sack producer for the Seahawks, but, there's always a chance that he just somehow makes a sack every single time he gets the chance and gets like 10 sacks this season. But I'm not going to count on it. Jamal Adams, he's so versatile. He's so talented. He plays basically everywhere on the field, and, he's probably going to be in coverage a lot, maybe helping with the run game. So his opportunities to get to the quarterback are probably going to be like 10% or less of like the time that he's on the field, maybe like 5%. And I don't think that's going to be enough for him to lead the team in sacks. Obviously, maybe out of that 5% he gets a sack every single time, who knows. But I think that Jamal Adams, ideally, he wouldn't be used as a mainly pass rusher guy. He'd be played in coverage and in the run. He'd be played basically everywhere like he has been on the Jets. As talented as he is, he basically has to be played everywhere because he is just so good in almost every single position that he can be played in as a safety. So ideally, he wouldn't actually be, leading the team in sacks, but there is definitely a possibility. If we look at last year, he had 6.5 sacks. Maybe he gets up to 8 somehow. Maybe he'll probably go down because he'll be played more in coverage than in, pass rush, but maybe he can stay around 6, maybe get to 8, and maybe that could lead the team. Ideally, he wouldn't. We'd be using someone like Bruce Irvin, Benson Mayowa, maybe Everson Griffin if we end up signing him, and all the other options and all the other depth that we have at pass rush that aren't amazing players, but they're definitely good players that can come in and have a shot to actually get a sack on the quarterback better than last year. So honestly, I don't think that it's going to happen. I'm going to hope that it doesn't happen, for the sake of the defensive line and the pass rushers on Seattle. I'm going to hope that we have a dedicated pass rusher that does better than Jamal Adams when it comes to sacks. That's just me being hopeful. But, I wouldn't be surprised if Jamal Adams comes close to Bobby Wagner in leading the team in tackles because, Jamal Adams, he's going to be playing everywhere on the defense. He is a very good tackler, especially in open space. He can basically stop anyone when it comes down to it. I think he missed only 4 tackles last year. And, compared to Quandre Diggs and Bradley McDougald, I think Bradley McDougald had 14 missed tackles. So Jamal Adams is a great tackler. There's definitely a chance that he can, maybe lead the team in tackles. I think Bobby Wagner is going to still do that because he leads the league in tackles. He's really close almost every single year. So, I think Bobby Wagner will be 1, and then Jamal Adams can possibly be 2 on the team when it comes to tackles. I'm going to hope Jamal Adams doesn't lead the team in sacks, but, there's always a possibility. He's a great player. And for our second hot take of the day from Seahawks.home, we have the Seahawks lead the league in Pro Bowlers. Now, this one is super interesting. I haven't heard anyone talk about the possibility of the Seahawks having the most Pro Bowlers in the league, but honestly, it looks pretty good. The Seahawks have a lot of players that could probably be guaranteed, and then a lot of players that can potentially have a pretty good chance of getting into it. So I'm going to be going off of a little bit of a list that made that has 3 tiers. The first tier is basically who I think is basically guaranteed, and then the second tier is a high-ish chance players that can definitely make it if they play well, but definitely can't make it if they play poorly. And then we have unlikely but possible, where I think if these players have very good seasons, like breakout seasons, and do very well, then they can make the Pro Bowl, but unlikely. But to start off, I'm going to be going with the guaranteed Pro Bowlers, and I'm going to say Russell Wilson, Bobby Wagner, Jamal Adams, Michael Dixon, our punter, because, he made it last year. He's a very consistent guy. And then I'm going to go with Tyler Lockett. So that's 5 guaranteed Pro Bowlers in my eyes, because I think Tyler Lockett is going to have a huge season. Russell Wilson, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, if not the best. It's arguable. Bobby Wagner, best linebacker in the league, almost no competition now that, now that Luke Kuechly's gone. And Jamal Adams, one of the best safeties in the league. All 5 of those, I think, are almost guaranteed. And now to move on to the high-ish chance, I'm going to say Shaquille Griffin. He made it last year, but I think he was a reserve. And then I'm going to say Quandre Diggs and Chris Carson. Shaquille Griffin, he was a Pro Bowler last year, albeit a reserve, but he has nowhere to go but up. Obviously, he can get worse, but I think that he's going to keep growing. And, Quandre Diggs, I think now that he has Jamal Adams, a superstar safety alongside him, and they have really good chemistry, it seems like they'll just make each other look better because they're going to be playing so well together. So like Jamal Adams will make a big play, then Quandre Diggs will make a big play, and they're just going to have great chemistry on the field. And I think that that'll make Quandre Diggs have a very good season and possibly make the Pro Bowl. And then Chris Carson, I mean, he's a really good running back. He's in his contract year, so he's going to have a big year if he wants to get that big contract. So if he does have a big year, there's a lot of competition in the NFC. We have Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon Barkley, we have Christian McCaffrey. Like, we have a ton of competition in the NFC for Chris Carson to make the Pro Bowl. But, I think Chris Carson, it's his contract year. If he plays all 16 games, definitely, I think he has a very good possibility of getting there. And now for the unlikely but possible, I'm going to go with number 1, DK Metcalf. And second on this list, I have Quinton Dunbar. And number 3 on this list, I have Bruce Irvin. And the 4th and final player that I have on this list is Will Dissly. Now, it's probably a hot take saying that he'll make the Pro Bowl because he hasn't played more than 6 games in a season in his entire career. And it's super unfortunate because of all the injuries, but I think Will Dissly, watching him play last year in those 6 games, he played very well. He made plays. I mean, Will Dissly makes plays when he's on the field. He just gets injured, and it's super unfortunate, but I think if Will Dissly can possibly play all 16 games, stay healthy, not get injured, I think he could statistically be one of the best tight ends in the league. And I'm saying that only statistically. I'm not saying that Will Dissly is better than George Kittle or better than any other tight end in the league. I'm not saying that he's better than someone that's great. I'm saying that statistically, the man might be able to top some of those players. Like George Kittle, he's a great blocker. He's a great receiver. He plays great, and he's probably going to be a guaranteed Pro Bowl player. But I think Will Dissly, when it comes to statistics, if he plays all 16 games, the man makes plays, and I believe that he can probably be easily top 5 tight end statistically if he does play all 16 games. I have high hopes for Will Dissly, and unlikely, but it's definitely possible in my opinion. So those are the players that I think can make the Pro Bowl. Now, if we take a look at it, that's 5 guaranteed players, which I really am going to stick with that because Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, Bobby Wagner, Jamal Adams, Michael Dixon, I think those are guaranteed. Those are great players at their positions, and they're basically a lock for the Pro Bowl this year. And then for the high-ish chances, I'm saying Shaquille Griffin, Quandre Diggs are almost guaranteed because they're going to play very well since they have such a good secondary around them. They're just going to make themselves look even better. So that would be 7. Chris Carson can possibly make it 8. I'm not even going to talk about the unlikely but possible because we wouldn't need them. If we got those 7 other than Chris Carson, that would tie for the highest last year. And that was the Chargers who had 7 last year. And I don't think the Chargers are going to have 7 Pro Bowlers. I don't think the Chargers are going to do great this year as a team. So, obviously team success does play a bit of a role in Pro Bowls. So honestly, I think that we could have 7 this year pretty easily, and that could easily top the league because 7 was the highest last year. Don't think 7 is going to be the highest this year unless it's the Seahawks. But when it comes down to it, we're not looking to have Pro Bowlers. We're looking to go to the Super Bowl. So none of those players would actually go to any Pro Bowl. We're looking to go to the Super Bowl. We got a good team. I think the Seahawks have a pretty good chance. But to be honest, in the broad scheme of things, there's a lot of great players in the NFL. Nothing is guaranteed. There's a lot of things that can happen in an NFL season. A lot of players who can flop, a lot of players who can break out and play very well. So there's really no way to guess who would be a Pro Bowler because there are just so many great players. The NFL is full of great players. And honestly, I think that there is a high chance that we can get 7 or 8. But we just have to wait and see. Quandre Diggs, Shaquille Griffin, I think they'll play great because Jamal Adams and Quinton Dunbar and the rest of the secondary around them is going to be good. But, Russell Wilson, that's basically a guarantee. Bobby Wagner, basically a guarantee. So, honestly, we're going to have to wait and see because any player can play well, any player can play poorly. But I do think that there's a high chance that we can possibly lead the league in Pro Bowlers this year. And for our third and final hot take of the day, we have Tyler Lockett leads the league in receiving touchdowns. Now, this one is definitely interesting because obviously from the last hot take, I said that Tyler Lockett will be almost a guaranteed Pro Bowler, and I'm going to stick by that. I think he's having a huge season this year. Maybe he doesn't lead the league in receiving touchdowns, but I think there's definitely a chance. The leader in receiving touchdowns last year had 11, and I think Tyler Lockett could easily do that. Obviously, other players could easily do that. Last year Tyler Lockett had 8 touchdowns, but the year before that he had 10. And I think it's probably going to go up from 11, so 11 isn't going to be the number to beat. 11 was last year's, but the year before that was 15, and there were a couple of 16s and 17s in the last 10 years, a lot of 13s and 14s and 12s. So I'm going to say probably 12, 13, 14 would be the range that I think that it could possibly be in this year. And, I think Tyler Lockett could possibly do that. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of distribution between, targets, because we're going to have Will Dissly, Greg Olsen. We're going to have Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. We might have Josh Gordon. We're going to have Philip Dorsett. We're going to have a lot of great receiving options. So Tyler Lockett, there's definitely a possibility that he gets less targets than he did last year, because he is going to have so many other good players around him that are going to be getting open, that are going to be getting targets, getting opportunities. But, Tyler Lockett, I think that actually helps him, because all those great players are going to take away from him, being focused. Obviously, someone like Michael Thomas, he's going to be focused by a defense because he is the #1 wide receiver. There's no wide receiver even close to him on his team when it comes to the talent that he has. And I think Tyler Lockett, he's definitely much more talented than DK Metcalf, so he's definitely going to be the wide receiver #1. But DK Metcalf is enough of a threat, and Josh Gordon, if he's brought in, can be enough of a threat. Philip Dorsett would be enough of a threat for defenses that actually have to worry about them, beating them deep. So Tyler Lockett, I think he'll have a lot more free range than someone like a Michael Thomas will. Obviously, Michael Thomas, I think, is a better player than Tyler Lockett, but Tyler Lockett is going to have better relative, receivers around him. He's going to have tight ends that are good in Greg Olsen, Will Dissly. He's going to have wide receivers that are good in DK Metcalf, Josh Gordon, Philip Dorsett. Maybe Josh Gordon's a maybe, but I think Tyler Lockett, he is definitely going to have a huge year. Last year he had over 1,000 yards. I think he has 1,300 or more yards this season if he gets the targets. Honestly, I think if he gets the same amount of targets as he did last year, he's going to have much more yards, because the field's going to be more open with more great players around him on the receiving core. So I think Tyler Lockett is going to do very well this season. I think there's definitely a good possibility that he can lead the league in receiving touchdowns. It's going to be difficult. There's a lot of great wide receivers in this league. But, Tyler Lockett, there's definitely a chance. He has great receivers around him. I think he'll probably get one-on-one coverage a good amount of the time, and he plays underneath or over the top. He doesn't really play that in-between area too much, so I think he's either going to make some huge plays and get some touchdowns, or he's going to play underneath and get a lot of targets, a lot of yards. So we're just going to have to see what happens. I think Tyler Lockett is going to have a great season. Honestly, I don't know about him actually leading the league in receiving touchdowns, because, there's so many great wide receivers, but that's why this is a hot take. It can happen, but it's unlikely to happen, and that's why I think hot takes are so fun, because, it makes you think, like, how could this happen, and would it actually happen? I think that's super interesting. And Tyler Lockett, he's going to have a great year. I believe it. Don't know about the receiving touchdown leader, but I think he's definitely going to do very well. And with that, that's going to be it for the video. I'd like to thank you for watching. Make sure you like the video if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Go ahead and follow me on Twitch. I'm probably going to start streaming maybe next week, maybe the week after. My schedule is going to get very hectic now that my college is going to be starting relatively soon. So I want to try to create a schedule for streaming that will work with that in the future. But, I'm going to have to figure that out, and then I will obviously make an announcement when I begin streaming again. And, subscribe to my second channel. Probably going to do some NBA content on there, since, this is going to be a football channel, a Seahawks channel. People don't really want to see the NBA. If you do want to see the NBA, go ahead, subscribe to my second channel. It's not going to be only NBA, but I'm definitely going to have some videos every now and then on the NBA. So go ahead and subscribe to that. But with that, I'd like to thank you for watching. Have a great day.